Hello, everyone. We're Project Recognition Relief, and our topic was public health and well-being. Um, okay, to start off this project, I feel like everyone here has done their research and pretty much found out that Japan is a very advanced country. There's everything is very much advanced. You have the best of the best in Japan. So it is difficult to find stuff to like even find problems in. Like as someone who's from a country that's, it's a third world country, when I start working on my projects, I there's a lot of issues to address. So when it got to Japan, it was a bit hard. But since our niche was public health and well-being, there are a bunch of issues to address. Specifically, the lack of education regarding menstrual health in secondary education. So I'd like to start off by introducing my members. As you can tell, we're a bunch of diversity in our group. We have two Pakistanis, we have Japanese, Swiss, and a bunch of Romania and from the USA, of course. So we have Aden. You want to introduce yourself?
Um, Hi guys. I'm Arvin. I'm gonna turn 16 in like 2 weeks, and yeah.
Coco.
I'm Sora and I'm 16. I'm Coco and I'm also 16. I'm from Japan.
I'm Dia. I am also 16 and I am from Pakistan. Oh, I'm Riyadh. I'm 19 and I'm from Romania.
I'm Athena. I'm 18 and I'm from Switzerland.
So, an introduction to our project. So while we were investigating Tokyo's public health challenges, there was obviously a bunch of issues to address, but like what our team discovered, what we thought would resonate with us really deeply, since we're also like a group of girls. There, as you can tell, there's no male members either. So we kind of came to this conclusion that, why don't we do work on the lack of education regarding menstrual health in Japan? So, and how it's stigmatized and it's considered like a taboo, not even in Japan alone. Like this is a worldwide problem, but we wanted to start off with Japan. And yes, we do have plans on expanding this to the rest of the world. But for now, we have focused on just the Tokyo area. So our solution to this is basically that we want to implement a curriculum that will eventually like run workshops in secondary high schools. That is our goal, to teach the youth about menstrual health. And our statement of inquiry was Japanese youth need extensive menstrual education because knowledge of menstruation should be universal knowledge regardless of gender. What I've noticed when people start working on menstrual health is that they focus more so on teaching the women, the girls about menstrual health. They should know everything. Yes, of course they should. But why don't the guys get to know about it? Why are they singled out? Like, is it not mandatory for the guys to know about this too? So, we as we were wondering, like, why is this? Why do guys not get to learn about this? We started going back in time. We started to trying to find the roots of why it is that way. So, from our research, well, I'll pass the mic to Coco and
Right. So when we started researching on topics for our project, we overall related to our topic, we just look at certain issues in the public health and well-being sector. We discovered that in Japan, in Japanese schools, both menstrual and sexual health are very limited topics. There's like a big social like taboo, and it's like generally very avoided. And even in schools, when you learn about menstrual health, boys and girls are frequently separated, and the girls are the ones that learn more about it, right? Which it reinforces the idea that it's like a problem that's only meant for females. Um, Another issue was that in like bathrooms in both public and school bathrooms, there's a lack of menstrual products, and as well as there's a sense of embarrassment around asking to go ask for one from like a school nurse, for example. Right, and then we expanded our research and found out that 20 to 30% of all young women around the world globally, as well as students, miss out on important lessons because of a condition known as dysmenorrhea, which is like severe menstrual pain. So like that, and
Yeah, so the menstruation health and education, this is like not just a problem that is here in Japan. Yes, like in Japan, um, it is really known that the education is very lagged behind, but it is also really related to our entire world because like the half, of course, the half of our population is women and the other half is men. But menstrual education, it should be something that everyone is educated as a whole.
so I'm gonna talk about three different medical conditions due to that are related to periods. So the first one is the most common one is dysmenorrhea. So basically, it's a medical term for period pain. And there's two types of dysmenorrhea. There's the primary one and the secondary one. And the primary one is when the menstrual pain isn't due to a medical condition. So, and the secondary one is caused by a medical condition, for example, endometriosis, PCOS, and that we're gonna. So endometriosis and PCOS are also conditions that we tend to forget about because for society, period pain is considered as normal, but it actually isn't normal depending on the symptoms. And a lot of women suffer from it without knowing they even have it. So I thought it was a very crucial topic to talk about. So endometriosis is an inflammatory condition with tissues similar to the lining of the uterus, those finds out from it. And the symptoms are menstrual pain, also pain during sexual intercourse, and to heal from it, you have to get surgery. And PCOS is more common than endometriosis and is a hormonal condition where high androgen levels prevent normal ovulation, which means that you can have irregular or just missed periods, excessive hair growth, facial and body hair growth, also pain, weight gain, and difficulty to lose. So,
And then to kind of understand why like periods are such a taboo topic, we have to go to the beginning of like kind of like history. So for example, like patriarchy. And in basic like ancient civilization, since no one owned property, everybody was a hunter-gatherer. And so they would typically gather food in groups and move place to place. But then they would evolve into settled farmers. And with like settled farms, you have land and property to take care of. And that has responsibility. So with the responsibility, you have to think, okay, who am I going to inherit this land to? So men and women would have families and they also work on the farm together. So they have the obligation to determine the inheritance. And naturally, the couple decide that the property would go to the sons, and we analyze two reasons why. The first one is the Marxist perspective. So the Marxist view is that simply because men are more productive than women, especially during times of pregnancy where they have to sit out, like the men are technically more superior, so they kind of deserve to inherit the land. And it makes women more of kind of like viewed as a possession and like a vessel for inheritance. But we think from our perspective, we take it from this American historian author named Gerda Lerner. And she's kind of like one of the leading feminists in American history and stuff. And from her view is that pregnancy did not lower the female's productivity, but also the man's productivity because it affects the houses as a whole. Labor becomes harder and more straining to do by yourself, and the profits of the house overall will go down because the productivity is reduced. And then how does this apply to us today?
This relates to us today because of course, everyone, when they're like growing older, like we all go to work and, as Gerda Lerner, as she explained in her view, this is like, menstrual health should be something that we all know of because it's not just like a girl's problem. It's not just like something that a girl, just has to like deal with, but it's also something that our society as a whole should be thinking about day to day, because of course, as Gerda Lerner said, it's as a society as a whole, a household as a whole, we should support each other, know more about it and learn more about it because yeah, productivity, and we should also support each other in our health and think about each other day to day.
So, like office culture across Asia and probably even globally, right? It's like very restrictive because you're kind of viewed as like a moneymaker or like a component of a certain system. So yeah, so Gerda Lerner's philosophy does relate like to this in some work culture in some aspects because women have more pressure to endure the pain due to lack of like knowledge about periods and stuff like that. Because when you're on your period and you're experiencing symptoms, you have lower work outputs or more missed days, which leads to both bosses and teams losing money, which also puts pressure on the person who is going like through their period because it's seen like a sign of laziness when it should not be. And like to fix it, you have to like talk more openly and allow flexibility and yeah. So,
And also like, okay, so if women are typically shamed when going through mental distress during like menstruation, like physically, and it's meant to be kind of endurance, and they just have to deal with it themselves, it'll make women less of a desire to be pregnant because it's more physically taxing, especially in the workplace. And so these harmful social norms towards women's health help to contribute to the decreasing fertility rates in Japan. And like I always like to note that Japan's fertility rates are at like a record low of like 1.14 child per woman, and Tokyo's fertility rates have been under 1 for the second year. And then I'll pass on to Coco for our field research. Okay.
So for our field research, we went to these different locations and I would like Dia to further explain. Thank you.
Okay, so for our fieldwork research, our first stop was the University of Tokyo and Museum of Health and Medicine, where we tried researching, finding out if they have any information regarding menstrual health and everything. But we were unfortunately we did not find anything regarding that, which is also another point because it is the Museum of Health and Medicine, and there were basically no mentions of the menstrual cycle or anything regarding that. So okay. So after that, we interviewed a few people on the campus as well. And after interviewing people on the campus, we headed to Omotesando, where we did a few more interviews, and we moved to Harajuku. And yeah, that was the end. And then we came back to our station, and these are some photos from the museum. Yep, and these are our interview locations. Coco will explain.
Okay, so I'll briefly explain why we chose these interview locations. So first we went to University of Tokyo. We went there for the museum, but also to interview students that were at U Tokyo, that were students there or students that were interested in going to U Tokyo. And we were able to learn more of like a different perspective from these students. And then Omotesando is a fashionable street with many like young locals going shopping. So we thought we could target these young locals there. And lastly, in Harajuku or Takeshita Street, which is a really dense area with many youth from around like different places in Japan. Hopefully, we can gain more insight into people from different parts of Japan. Okay. So here is a preview of the questions we asked. We primarily asked them like when and where they learned about periods, to like what is one change you think schools should make to better support female students during their periods. And we asked, oh, here is the interviewee criteria. We asked people that were young in the age of 13 to 30. And we try to interview people who are Japanese, and we interview people from any gender. So the first question is, when did you first learn about periods? A lot of the people we interviewed a lot of the women said that they learned it in their elementary school, and a lot of men said that they learned it in their middle school years or from high school or later from maybe their close female friends or female people around them. And yeah, according to our interview, a lot of people learned about periods at their school, which was a really good insight for us because we wanted to implement a certain curriculum into the schools, and we were able to learn that a school can be a great place for students to actively learn about menstrual health. And some people also learned about periods at their home, yeah, which was an insight for us as well. And the third question is, can you name the symptoms of a period that you know of? A lot of female responses were very specific, like stomach pain to like psychological symptoms. But male responses, as we discussed, we found them pretty like generic, from like bleeding to headaches, and that difference taught us about how the different views of periods depending on like female and male. The fourth question is, did you have accessible menstrual health care at your school? A majority said that they did not have access to menstrual care in their bathrooms in their high school, which is where they needed the most. So in some places they had it in their nurse's room, but as we discussed as a group, and we were talking about how it's really important to have them in their bathrooms where they need it and what it's accessible the most. The fifth question is, what kind of middle or high school did you attend? We wanted to know the demographics of our interviewees, and we wanted to find a connection between the type of school and the menstrual health education that they received. And regardless of the type of school, public, private, or international, many female students were educated in menstrual health. And more private schools did not have menstrual care in the restrooms compared to public middle schools, which was surprising for us. Okay, and we would like to go to a spotlight of one of our interviewees, which Adin will expand on.
Yeah, so in Harajuku on the street, while we were looking for interviews, we approached this man and asked him a few questions. And when we asked him like some of the questions that Coco talked about earlier, he said, I don't care, it doesn't affect me. Please go ask women instead.
So from our interviews, we learned the difference and the desire to learn more about menstrual health, depending on like gender or where they came from or what kind of school they attended. And second, we learned how menstrual care in Japanese high schools are not very accessible. And the last point is that the need for foundational education on menstrual health for both women and men in schools is, yeah, the foundational education is needed in Japan. So next, we'll move on to our proposed solution. So we decided, as Dia mentioned earlier, we wanted to create a curriculum on menstrual health for all genders and host workshops in Japan and globally. Why is this? Because menstrual health is like related to everyone, as Gerda explained. It's not just a women or girl thing, but it's something that a society as a whole should think about. And second, how will we do this? We were planning to do this through a student organization, NPO or NGO, and start off with collaborating with existing credible organizations so that we can actually teach people at local schools. And when will we do this? We decided that we will start today. So before we do, we want to introduce our curriculum quickly. So yeah, okay. So we were discussing that we should separate it between male and female. Males should learn during middle school, and females should briefly learn about it in elementary school and learn more as they go up in higher education.
I'd like to add to that, although it seems like we're trying to say that males should get to learn about it later and girls should be taught about it earlier. It is not, it is definitely not because we want to create like an imbalance. It's just that girls are the ones suffering from it, so I guess they should get to know about it sooner. But that definitely does not mean that we want boys to learn less about it and girls to learn more about it. We want both of them to get equal education regarding menstrual health.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
listening. You have a question?
Is there a solution like a class basically at school that like the one time thing?
For now, yes, we don't really exactly have a clear idea of whether we want it to be a special class or do we want it to be included into textbooks or like that's a far stretch for now, but or do we want it to be a part of the classrooms? But yeah, we do kind of want to bring it like as a whole subject. There should be proper classes, not just like a single session that happens once a week and then never happens again.
Well, we were gonna like propose that during like sexual education, it should be more thorough and it should be kind of implemented through like NGOs or nonprofits that partner with government and educational organizations to make sure it kind of gets implemented in the curriculum in general.
It also seemed like the boys were like pretty well informed. I feel like many of the answers like were the same and then like the girls had more specific answers. But that's because they've actually experienced it. And that's like their own personal like things, like not all girls have that, but I feel like it's the more common thing the guys knew. So like. Is it like essential to have like 20 hours dedicated to learning about menstruation?
No, we're not.
We're not
asking for
suggesting
that.
20 hours of menstruation. We're just suggesting that it should be taught more so openly in like schools, not like as a taboo. And regarding that, yes, we're kind of glad that the guys were pretty educated, but from our actual interviews, like from the people we met in Harajuku and Watasando and even like U Tokyo, the guys were not as educated as it seems on the slides. I know on text form, it seems that, oh, they're educated enough. They're not, trust me. You have a question?
Yeah, I'm kind of with him on this one, like, wait, so like I understand where he's coming from, so like, if, for instance, I was a boy, right? Cause it was super interesting for me, but if I were a man, right? And then I didn't go through the period, what, can you guys give me like maybe benefits for me to learn about the menstruation cycle? Like, what are the, maybe, what can I learn from that? Or how would it benefit me in my life? Maybe once I'm married or once I'm well, I don't know.
Okay, that's a
Wait,
pretty
you
good question, actually. So why, yeah, that's a pretty relevant question. Why do guys need to know about it? What's the good in it for them? Well, I mean, as like a human being, I feel like knowledge is the key to success, as we all know. So why do we educate ourselves in topics like engineering, medical sciences, and everything? But why don't we learn about basic human anatomy? Just because it singles out to just women doesn't mean that you don't have to learn about it or it has no use for it for learning, and I mean, yeah, learning about it has advantages when you go in the future, you got any woman around you, it will definitely help you better understand why a woman might be feeling that way, not just, oh, she's just on her period.
Yeah, and I want to add on, especially like in workplaces, like it's really important to understand because people might be like, especially women on their periods, it might be hard for them to concentrate, and it is important for like everyone to support them and to be without the education, I don't think that we can support them, give them the support that they need. So the education for both women and men is, yeah, really important and beneficial for both.
Our goal is like mainly not to get like make guys know every single thing about periods. It's just to make it less of like a taboo topic, so women don't have to endure in silence and stuff like that. Like we're not asking for like guys to know all 5 phases or like whatever. We just want to make it in schools for like people to understand like it's not that like it should be a crazy thing. Michael, that's such a. Wait, can we do?
I think that you're gonna do this kind of issue with the adults and females, but why don't we just do it at the same time as those same classes and those separated time?
That's like definitely like an option, but usually in like sex ed, boys and girls are separated for reasons. So we kind of tailored it to be more like that, where boys will learn one thing and then girls will learn another, because that's kind of how it usually is.
Mindful?
Um, like you guys mentioned just now, like the males are somewhat aware of what a period is, right? But then you guys were talking about how it's a different, like it's not as precise as how the females use it. But the thing is, we don't experience through it, and I don't think it's coming from myself. I don't think it should be the education on like huge women's like menstruation system. It should be more like to know like how to respect that point and not to understand like yes, but like but not understand as in you guys' perspective. More like how we what we can do to respect you guys and appreciate you guys, right? So like maybe when you guys are on the period, like what people should around you guys should do and not just educate us on what happens and then how it feels and all that stuff because we don't really feel it, we don't really need to know it, but what we need to know is how to respect and appreciate you guys, right?
Can I? Oh,
I have another thing, linking back to her question. Your answer was they should be separated, but you guys are also saying in your presentation that you want the guys to know, like you want the guys to know the specific details. So why are they separated? Like if, like, my question is, if you're teaching the girls more specific stuff in a separate class, should the guys also be in that class if you want them to know the specific stuff?
Can I answer what Michael, was that
Yeah,
a
yeah.
question? Okay, so for Michael's question, I think it's important to educate them first, like what it is. Without knowing what it is, I think you won't know what you can do to support them.
But like you guys said, there's some sort someone know how like all the men you guys introduced, some sort like someone know about how what it is. It's just not as like well like just not as well as how females do. But I think that like a brief idea of it would be enough, I think, personally.
Okay, I'll answer this one. Here, I'll put this into a perspective. I'm very happy to know that people in Japan, even everyone in here, I'm pretty sure you're all very educated, very smart. You guys know what a period is. But if I put it in a broader sense, I'll talk from my personal experience. In my country, men know nothing about periods. So when I talk, I know it seems like I'm saying that, oh, these men know nothing, even though they know pretty much the basics of periods, which I'm very glad to know. But when you put it in a broader sense, do you personally believe that men around the world know that much about periods? Would you say that, except for like I'd say first world countries where people are mostly educated?
I'm sorry to say, but I'm like from first world country. So like I don't know about like first world countries and how they're educated on it. But I think how like let's say in Pakistan, how can you promote this in Pakistan? Wouldn't the government be mostly like the government would decide this kind of like education system and stuff? Because what this is very political, but like a lot of the places that they're not aware of this problem is because they have like a closed government system, and then there's like you guys implementing this to education systems, but a lot of first world countries already have it because of the government, like they're better governments or they're better government, the regime in charge, right? So if you guys want to promote this in a third world country, how would you guys do that with the government? You don't have to answer because it's like a very further question. But I'm just putting it on
I
the
don't think
table.
answering it, honestly. We're not here to promote periods, to put it into exact words. No, it's fine. We're here to spread awareness as well, which I know like this isn't the main the point of our project to just spread awareness, but you have to understand when you do a project, you have to kind of start with the awareness process. So yeah, what you're saying about my country is not far from the truth, yes. But I cannot speak for the government, obviously, but knowing my people and the areas that you're talking about, yes, it is true. But that's why we have to start somewhere. We have to start with educating people, getting the right information across.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.